everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do another DIY Dollar Tree Autumn Hobby Lobby dupe. We're going to use some traditional colors this time. First thing I was inspired by was this wooden leaf door or wall hanger with jingle bells on it. I thought it was really super cute. So we're going to use the maple leaves. We're going to need 6, so it's 2 packs. You could do it with 5. A little bit of jingle bells. They have them for Christmas, some jute, and of course some wire. I'm going to use the black out of that set. For all of these projects, we're going to need paint. I didn't mention that. What I ended up doing was I ended up taking a little bit of the Waverly chalk paint in pumpkin and mixed it in with the apple barrel gloss orange pumpkin paint that I had because I wanted that gloss look, because all of these items are sort of like have like a finish look, but I wanted that color not to be quite as bright. So what I did was I mixed them together, but you go and do you, boo. You know what I'm saying? All right. So what I did was I gave each one of these a coat of orange. I left their stems blank until the end so I can hang on to them. Then I took some of the Waverly chalk paint in truffle, mixed it with a little bit of orange, and then really made a mess. And it really looks like a mess, but then I want to show you up close here, nice and slow. You just take a little bit of the orange and you blend it. Basically, I went around the whole edge of the leaf with brown and brushed it in towards the center. And then I took the orange back out and I blended it by brushing it in from the center. Out from the center, excuse me. And it's great that they all have different hues and different variations because, first of all, leaves in nature are that way. And second of all, the inspiration piece was as well. Now, don't worry about the veining. I'm showing you here. This is just a Dollar Tree brush. You know, we talked about painting 101. One of the things I like to do with the fine brush, the round brush, excuse me, is to spin it in the paint just to create a little bit of a point. If your paint's too thick, just add a little bit of water always. With acrylic craft paint, it's usually water-based. I very, 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 very rarely is it ever, like an oil-based paint. So you just want to thin it out with water so you can handle it. And with this paint, you would think you'd want it to be thicker, but you really want it to be thinner because the thinner paint will help the brush flow and give you a nicer line. So there is no rhyme or reason to leaves. I mean, there is an actual nature rhyme or reason, but when you're an artist, there is no rhyme or reason to leaves. You just want to make sure you always have a center vein, and then whether you do your 2 little side arms in individual branches or together branches, however you want. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking a little tiny bit of the ink paint and I'm adding water to it and I'm making it really watered down. And then I'm taking a stiff bristle brush and I'm sort of like rubbing my finger against the bristles to create this spattered look. The original inspiration piece did have some spattery speckles on it. It also had glitter. I kind of left the glitter off. It also had yellow tones, and I didn't really want to go with the yellow tones. But you can choose to do whichever you want, or you can even go with non-traditional colors and make gray leaves and ivory color leaves. That would be pretty. Now we're going to take the jingle bells, and what I've done is I've threaded the jingle bell on a piece of wire and I really just twisted it until the end, till I twisted up the whole end. And I did this for all 5 jingle bells. I actually put 2 of them on the ends of 2 wires, and then one I made an individual wire by itself. And then I took the 2 folded wires and then the 1 individual wire, and I basically twisted them all together at the top. I took the 1 really long double jingle bell wire and I made that the hanger. So what I did was I took the other 2 sets of wires and I twisted the end around, the folded end around, and I looped it through the 2 pieces of wire just to create a hanger. Now I'm painting them. I just took my truffle paint from Waverly chalk paint, and I just really barely touched them with some of the truffle paint. You could spray paint these if you have the inclination, if you want them to like really last, if you're planning on putting them outside or any of that stuff. The same thing with protecting it. I got a lot of questions about protecting it. You know, most Mod Podge is not waterproof. It is wipeable proof, but it's not really waterproof like to be sitting outside. So keep that in mind. But they do have some spray acrylics and polyacrylics that you can coat your projects with so that they're weather resistant. But just look at the package for any, ideas, details. So now for the leaves, we're going to wire them together too. There's 6 leaves. You can do whichever arrangement you want. The inspiration had one really long one down in the center and then basically like a little cluster of them. But I basically just took some wire. I went around the stem because the inspiration piece had them hanging from their stem, even though these from the Dollar Tree actually have a hole in the other end. I didn't take the time to paint the back or to fill in the hole, but if you guys want to do that, if you're hanging this on your glass door, or you don't want to have to worry about the wires twisting around, then you can go ahead and paint the back as well. Okay, and then I just clustered them together. I arranged them on the table, as you can see here. I tried to twist the wires so that everything would lay nice and flat. I arranged it the way I thought it looked best. And then I took some jute, and I mentioned the jute earlier. I took about 9 strands. I folded it in half and then folded it in thirds. I guess that would be 6 strands. Yeah, never mind. That was 6 strands. And I just made a bow around the whole big knot of wires, and here's how it looks all finished. I think it's absolutely darling and at a fraction of the cost. The inspiration piece was $5.99 on sale, on clearance, and we did this for about $1.50, $2, depending on how many jingle bells you get. For the next one, we're going to do this sort of faux palette that says, "Welcome to our patch." The original inspiration piece was 15 by 16. This one's going to be a little smaller. So we're going to use some rulers, but you could use paint stirrers or the giant popsicle sticks, really whatever you want. We're going to use stickers. I'm going to use some stickers I found at the Dollar Tree. And then that pack of wood pieces was from Walmart for $1.67. It's the only thing you'll find in this whole video that wasn't, besides the paint, that wasn't from the Dollar Tree. But you can go ahead and use like dowels if you want to, or cut down those giant popsicle sticks, whatever you want to do if you want to create this your own way. So now what I'm doing is I'm kind of creating a whitewash, really like a stain, an orange stain. I took that orange that I had mixed, I added some brown to it just so to dull it down a little bit, and I added quite a bit of water to it. Then what I did was I took my paintbrush and I basically created like a stain. Then I started to wipe it off with my wipe, and then at the end I started using the wipe as stain, to basically apply the stain. But one thing you need to do first is you need to cut one of the rulers down in half for the sides, and you also need to cut down the dowel. The dowel I found a little bit difficult to cut down, I'll tell you, but I actually just used my my utility knife, and I rolled the dowel as I cut, pushed down, and I spun the wooden dowel around. And just do this a few more times than I did. Then I ended up breaking it on the edge of the table. But I made sure I got front and back of the palette, of the rulers, even though the original inspiration didn't have any color on the back. I was like, well, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound, you might as well. And then I just did all of the sides and the edges. And like I said, eventually I just ended up using the wipe to wipe it on and wipe it off. And it dries super quick when you do it that way. Okay? And now, like I mentioned, we're going to do the dowel. Out of the whole set of dowels, this is the second to smallest one. This is just to create that palette look. But again, if you want to, you can do different things if you want to simulate that. You could always build your Jenga blocks. Like some people really like the Jenga blocks. They can build them up there too. But these were cheap enough. You know, you get 8 for $1.67, so it's roughly around 20 cents each. And, you know, I don't know that you can really beat that price. Okay, and then of course stain that and set everything off to dry. So now I'm deciding, like, okay, which letters do I pick because they want them to fit. I found these are actually from Stickaroo. I think that's what the name of the company is. But I found them at the Dollar Tree. Occasionally the Dollar Tree will get like a closeout item from a different store. And I just thought these were the perfect height. The Dollar Tree does sell these little black letters that come on a big sheet, which I also have. They're just a tiny bit smaller. And I had these and I might as well just use them, right? But of course I wanted them to be black. So what I did was I peeled them off and put them on the package because it'll be easy to peel back off the package. And then I just stamped them with some Waverly chalk paint and ink because I wanted it to dry fast. And I did this first because I want to set it aside and let it dry so I can just go, you know? Yeah, you guys know. And what I did was then I laid out all of my ruler backs, and I wanted to find the best 3 to be the face of the ruler. I mean the face of the palette, excuse me. And also that one of them was a little darker, and I kind of like it, that variation. It just made it feel a little bit more natural to me. But we're basically just going to create a palette. We're going to take the two uprights and add the top and bottom. I will tell you that I didn't notice that my sticks weren't quite the same height. And it ended up being a little crooked, but I ended up going back and fixing that, because from the perspective from where I was sitting, it wasn't really noticeable until I stood it up. So I just didn't I saved you all that hassle of having to watch everything go back and forth. But basically what we did was we just added some of the Gorilla hot glue to two spots. I made sure that the dowels were going where the hole was on the ruler, so that it would block all the holes on the upright, the signage part of the palette. Okay, and I added that stick to both sides, and then I added the top, and then I spaced the rulers between them to create just even spacing. And then you glue them to the upright sticks from Walmart. All right, now I should have, in hindsight, put the top on last, but of course I was trying to create a square with that box, and it ended up not working anyway. But in hindsight, what I would do if I could go back and do this again, I would definitely glue the sticks to the bottom ruler, and then add the palette slats, and then go ahead and put the top on when I was done. Now for the sides, again, I didn't cut it straight, so you just might need to trim. It actually is supposed to fit inside the top and bottom and behind the slats. That's really all it is. So you just do whatever you can, and I don't know that they're necessary, but they're in the original design, so I just wanted to go with the original design. Okay. And the last thing I showed you that we needed, that I didn't tell you we needed, is just like a little piece of that, those little log pieces from the Dollar Tree. But you can use whatever you want for a stem. The actual stem on the inspiration piece looked more like the stem that was in those flat wooden pumpkins that have the pretty verbiage on them. And now I'm just spacing them out. So I wanted to show you that even with stickers, you can gently lay them down without pressing, and you can make them so that you can move them around a little bit. So that's what I did. I placed the word welcome by going from the center out on both sides, and then to our, I ended up like laying out gently. Now one of the stickers did actually rip, so I ended up having to glue it back on, but that was not a problem. All right, and then just press them down firmly. And now we're going to add our pumpkin stem. And all of these projects had raffia, and I'm just not a raffia girl, but go ahead and use raffia if you want. I mean, it's cheaper than, I don't know if it's cheaper than a jute, but you get a lot. And I just created a jute bow instead. For the last one is this really cute pumpkin topiary that says blessed and thankful, and it was originally $18, but even on clearance it was $10, and it was only 8 inches high. So I said, we can do this for 8 inches. I took a styrofoam plate and 3 styrofoam pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. The regular carvable one, the little tiny mini that's on clips, and then one of the colored ones that was sort of a medium size. We're going to use acorns and Spanish moss, as well as the same colored paints that we used before. All right. Now we're going to take off all of the stems, including the little one, and we're going to cut the little, pull the rubber thing out of the bottom. There's this little tiny plastic sort of rubbery tube at the bottom of the little pumpkin that attaches it to the clip. But save the gold stem from the medium pumpkin, because that's the one we're going to add back. The inspiration piece didn't actually have a stem, it just had 2 leaves sitting on top, but I just thought it would look cute with the stem. So now this is me mixing the paint for the first time. These are out of order, but I went by the way that they got finished, not by the way that they got started. So what I did was I mixed some of the, I took the rest of the gloss paint and I just added some of the apple barrel paint. I mean the Waverly chalk paint right to the apple barrel bottom and mixed it up. And that's how I was able to create this really nice shade. And you can tell as I painted the foam pumpkin that it is quite a different shade than it is on the factory one. Now these ones are going to stack, so the only one we have to worry about painting the actual whole top is the little one, and we don't really have to worry about any of the bottoms because it's going to sit on that plate when we're all done. But to create the shading, we're going to take a tiny bit of truffle paint, we're going to mix it with some of the orange, and I know that looks terrible, and you guys are always like, you're such a talented person, you're so great painting, and I know that I do have a natural talent, but I know that this is really just practice, practice, practice. I've been doing crafts for 40 plus years now, and I've been studying crafts for 40 plus years now, I feel like. And it's really, you guys can do it, I promise. Just don't be afraid to know that it's paint. And the worst case scenario is you just paint over it if you don't like it. Okay? But I wanted to mimic the inspiration piece that sort of had that really, really deep brown on it. So what I did was I filled in a dark line in each of the crevices, and then I went back over it with just the orange that was on the wet brush, and I brushed back over the hills. We always talk about the hills and the valleys on these pumpkins. So you want the valleys to be darker, you want the hills to be highlighted. And now I really like the mix of paints for this particular pumpkin because it is ceramic, the inspiration. It does have a really nice shine to it, and the adding the Waverly chalk paint to the gloss paint, it cut down on the shininess of it being like a high gloss, but it still has a little bit of shininess. So it actually really mimics the texture of a ceramic, which I really like. That was a happy accident. I was just trying to get the color right. I did not expect to get the sheen proper as well. So you're going to repeat that same technique with all 3 pumpkins. These 3 pumpkins are all going to be the same size like the inspiration piece is. Okay? And the middle-sized pumpkin with that really rich red color that was under it didn't take the orange as well as the other 2 did. The other 2 were orange to begin with, so it may have actually coated the exact same, but because the color underneath was better. So when I went to go do the shading, I just made sure that I had a little bit more paint on that middle pumpkin, okay, just to make it really look orange. So now that we are ready to rock and roll, we're just going to take our world famous Sharpie, and I am just writing blessed. The inspiration piece had a little bit different words, but it was the same sentiment. I'm going to put be grateful and be blessed. I think the original inspiration was be blessed and be thankful. But, you know, stickers, printables, tracing, there's lots of different ways to get words on here. You guys are so kind with my penmanship, and sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, my mother would smack me so hard. My mother went to Catholic school and had the most gorgeous penmanship. Ask any of my brothers and sisters. So it was important to her. But I just am basically, you get, you know, look at your computer, get a printable out, and you just copy it. Do the best you can. This isn't exactly how they look on the printables, but it's just trying to mimic that feel. And it is not printed like the inspiration piece. The inspiration piece was all in just regular penmanship. It didn't have any of this cute little fonts. It did have vines, however, so I did add the laurel vines on the bottom. And again, those aren't perfect. They really aren't. Look, that one was like a ball. I put a ball on the end instead of a leaf. So, and then I almost forgot to put the word be. So I had to go back. It said the top pumpkin says be, the middle pumpkin says grateful, the bottom pumpkin says be blessed. So it was like be grateful, be blessed. And now I'm just repeating it. I'm using a font size that was appropriate to the pumpkin. All right. And then for this middle pumpkin, I put the vines almost like parentheses around the word. And now I glued the bottom pumpkin to the plate. I've glued the middle pumpkin to the bottom pumpkin. And now I'm just adding the word be to the top and its little stem. I'm going to put that little gold stem back. And a big dollop of glue right there. And just make sure all your words line up on the one side. Of course, you know, whenever we do this, we always pick the pretty side of the pumpkin to write on. Look at your painting and find out which one you like the best, and that's what you want to use. So now we trim down the plate. Where the plate kind of has like a well on the bottom, you know, like a little, where it starts to curve up. We just trimmed from there, so it was completely flat. And I decided to use it on a plate because this had like sort of a base of moss and acorns. So I wanted to emulate that. So I basically just said, let's go to a plate. We'll put some real moss. We'll put some real acorns. Well, Dollar Tree's real acorns. And we'll just glue around. And that's all I did. We've mossed plenty of things before. But basically, I'm just adding some glue. I usually take the tip of my glue gun to spread it out a little bit. I added acorns where I felt they would look cute. The inspiration had white acorns, so if you wanted to paint these white, you could. And then you just go all the way around, and then you trim to fit. Thank you to Sarah Jane from Chic on the Cheap, who said, cut it all up and put it in a box. And I'm like, you go, girl. And now the last final touch was it had a leaf on top, so I decided to add a leaf, and that's it. So I hope you guys really enjoyed these tutorials. I Love each and every one of them. Love you guys too. If you have any questions at all, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to share with friends and family, anybody who might be interested in seeing what we made. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe. When you do, a little bell will pop up. When you ring that bell, YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a new video. And let me know if you like the traditional colors. I really do appreciate your feedback. As always, you guys take care. God bless, and we'll see you next time. Bye.